Hello, my name is Laraj Shinnickson, and today I will be speaking about Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was born into slavery in the year of 1856. His father was an unknown white male, and his mother was a slave cook. Around the emancipation period, he was about 9 years old. His family packed up and moved, and he started working in a coal mine and a salt furnace. One day at work, he overheard two of his co-workers speaking about a college that opened up for blacks. And he became very interested because he was born into slavery, meaning he was deprived of an early education. When he was about 16 years old, Booker T. Washington entered into the Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute in Hampton, Virginia, which was one of the most important steps in his life. During that time, he attended the school, and he had an urge for wanting to learn. He always wanted to be educated, and he always had greed to want to learn more and more. He went against the Jim Crow laws. Back in those days, the Jim Crow laws was basically laws that enforced racial segregation. He focused on having education for real life jobs and not asking for equality from the whites. He didn't want any helps from the whites. He felt like you wouldn't make it anywhere if you just focused on equality, because to be honest, in those days you would never be equal to a white man. So just accept the fact that you'll never be equal to a white man. However, you can still get the same education and get a job and perform that job properly. While in school, he studied law. He also studied ministry, and then a teaching position became available, and he got hired on as a teacher. And when he became a teacher, he started to learn more and more, and he taught very, very well. He wrote a lot of books and articles. He gave speeches. He became popular for George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver invented peanut butter, so that became very popular in the Agricultural Institute because they wanted to diversify the crops so that could improve the economic status for African Americans. So during his lifespan, he endured racism his whole life. He endured criticism his whole life. No one made him go to school. He went to school on his own because he wanted to learn. He wanted to become someone. He wanted to have the same advantages as the white people. So he went to school on his own, and he got an education on his own. It was his personal responsibility for him getting an education and becoming one of the most influential educators and race leaders of African American studies. He wrote a book called Up From Slavery in 1901. He basically wrote about his life of slavery. He wrote a book on an autobiography on the life of Frederick Douglass, another influential black American that was born into slavery. He also wrote The Story of My Life and Work in 1900, which was one of the first of 3 autobiographies that he wrote. And also Up From Slavery was interpreted and printed in 8 different languages. His biggest critic was W.E.B. Du Bois. He basically criticized Booker T. Washington for his studies and his beliefs, because Booker T. Washington didn't want us to ask the white man for help. He just wanted us to get an education. W.E.B. Du Bois felt as if we should get an education and be equal to the white man. But in those times, you could never be equal to a white man because you were born into slavery. So you will always, in their eyes, be a black man and a slave. So during his time, he was born into slavery, deprived of an education, never knew his father. However, he still became a milestone in the African American studies. At the age of 16, he entered into the Hampton Normal and Agricultural Institute. Like I indicated, that was one of the most important steps to his life at 16 years old. he started studying. He studied ministry and law. He started studying, gaining knowledge, and then that helped him. So whenever he became a teacher, that was another important step of his life. And that speech that he gave in Atlanta, that made him most famous. Booker T. Washington, the lifespan from 1856 to 1915, one of the biggest educators, race leaders, knowledgeable men ever in African American studies. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the presentation.